Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle, and this month we are still catching up on Cage. Today is Season of the Witch 2011, so what we're doing for the month of February is we've each chosen two Nic Cage movies, one we've seen a long time ago and that we don't remember, and one that we've never seen. So yeah, Season of the Witch 2011. I wanted to say at the top real quick, Trevor, I meant to mention this before we got started. Somebody asked me, like, well, what's the motivation behind doing this podcast? What are you getting at? I'm like, well, we're trying to get each other to watch movies we wouldn't normally watch and get ourselves to watch movies that we wouldn't normally watch. And I was like, what other motivation do I have for doing this? And I was like, one of the things I wanted to mention, I know you have your own motivations as well. One of the frustrating things with having a significant other is finding something to watch at night. So if you follow this podcast, you can use this as a source of, like, at least one of these guys is probably going to recommend this movie, and if I haven't seen it, chances are I might enjoy watching it. So you can even use this as, like, what should I watch? Oh, what movie have I not seen on Catching Up on Cinema? Like, oh, one of them likes this, except for Bandersnatch. Don't watch that. Don't watch that shit.
And The Dark Backward.
No. You should watch The Dark Backward.
Yeah,
I think everybody should have
a very strong argument for everybody deserves to take one swing at it. Just give it a shot. See if it works for you.
If you like Bill Paxton at all, just give it a watch. So yeah, this is my choice. So I actually originally chose Raising Arizona, and we decided to not do an episode on it. One, because I don't feel like it would have made a good episode. Personally, and two, we don't want to piss off the Coen brothers crowd,
which is quite considerable.
Yes,
the Coen brothers have quite the following, and that's just a whole can of worms that I don't feel terribly qualified to get into.
And I'm a big Coen brothers fan. If you were to go after Hail Caesar, I'm like, those are fighting words, dude.
Hail Caesar, you shut your fucking mouth.
You shut your mouth. I love Hail Caesar.
I think we both enjoy Coen brothers films, but at the same time, neither of us has seen their filmography front to back.
No,
and they have a very distinct. Here's my favorite word, oeuvre. That I think a lot of folks out there probably know better than we do.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we were to start talking about Raising Arizona, there'd be so many fine details and just stuff that we'd overlook that is very important to a certain subsect of people that for us it's just oh, whatever, I didn't like it.
Anton Chigurh is I think to date my favorite movie villain of all time. So I've got love for the Coen brothers because,
like I said, I think we both have quite a bit of love for them. I talk about A Serious Man every chance I get because I really happen to enjoy that film.
Did you talk to the rabbi?
Which one?
It's so good.
But yeah, so Kyle initially proposed Raising Arizona as his movie that his Cage film that he wanted to catch up on, meaning neither of us had actually seen it. However, he called an audible and he said no. So instead, he very quickly pivoted and decided to go with Dominic Sena's Season of the Witch. If you're not aware, Dominic Sena has worked together with Nic Cage on Gone in 60 Seconds. And I believe he also is a very prolific music video director.
I saw that.
I think it definitely shows in his editing style, especially in Gone in 60 Seconds. Holy shit, he did the Top Gun anthem music video with Harold Faltermeyer? Fuck yes.
You just said a whole bunch of stuff I don't know.
Look it up. You'll love it. But he also directed Swordfish. I don't know if you've seen that, Kyle.
Oh, I have.
those frosted highlights, man, on every male in the cast.
In my opinion, Hugh Jackman can almost do no wrong. In most of the movies I've seen, I've either enjoyed it or I've enjoyed his performance in it. Just biased.
No, I love me some Jackman. The Jackman can, in fact, do no wrong, except when he has an earring and frosted tips in his hair.
Hey man, it was the time.
And when he's cast as a hacker.
Yeah, no. Oh man, he's
6.5 foot tall, super jacked Aussie hacker.
When he's in Travolta's house and he's hacking and he's smoking cigarettes, he's gone through an entire bottle of wine, and then he's going for a second one while he's hacking. I'm like, how the fuck are you getting anything done, dude?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think the only reason why most people remember that film, well, 2 reasons. 3 reasons. 4 reasons.
You don't even have to say the fourth one. Don't even say the fourth one. We know the fourth one.
3 and 4 are attached to the same human being.
Gotcha.
That would be Halle Berry.
Yeah.
Men of a certain age will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The other 2 reasons are the first sequence in the film, the slow motion 360 explosion.
Yeah.
That was in vogue at the time. The Matrix was only like 2 years before or something. And then that goddamn Paul Oakenfold song. He does like techno music and stuff. He did this song that goes. Oh yeah, and John Travolta's Soul Patch. But
gosh!
Enough with the clown.
Yeah.
Season of the Witch. Why is it you picked this one, Kyle?
Well, my other choice was going to be Bringing Out the Dead, because I watched a little thing about Nic Cage talking about his favorite characters he's played, and it's also what led me to watch Mandy for the first time. But he was talking about his character in Bringing Out the Dead, and it sounded really interesting. And then I looked at the director, and it's a rated R Scorsese movie, so I'm like, we don't need to do an episode on that. Just watch that movie.
I believe I started this podcast by using the phrase "can of worms." Scorsese is like a fucking bathtub.
I'm not touching that. Two of the movies.
I feel grossly underqualified to get into that.
He has 4 movies that I have rewatched no less than 8 times each. I know for a fact I went through Wolf of Wall Street. I think I've seen that 8 times. 4 of those were in like 2 months. Like just every other week I watch that movie.
For me, it's Raging Bull, Goodfellas, Casino, Aviator, Wolf, and then there's probably one other at least.
The Departed, Casino, Goodfellas.
Six for me.
Wolf of Wall Street. So I'm like, Bringing Out the Dead, I'm like, it's just going to be a good movie. We don't need to do a podcast on it. Like, we're not going to. No. What are we going to possibly say about Martin Scorsese's film? So
and everything will be wrong.
I wanted to do this movie because I want to do something else here, maybe here in a few months, but I want to do some catching up on Seagal. I think we could have some fun with that. But this is that Nic Cage kind of in limbo movie. It looks super corny, and it just looked like it'd be a fun movie. It seemed like he might really.
I think that's fitting because you've cited Bangkok Dangerous as like I think the last movie you've seen in theaters starring Nic Cage.
Yeah.
And that was like the beginning of the limbo period.
Yeah.
It was like right after the National Treasure movies, and then we get like Bangkok Dangerous and Knowing and this. And what's really funny about that though is that my movie that I picked that we'll be doing for next week is Drive Angry, which came out the same year as Season of the Witch. So this is Nic Cage in his I like to call it the Nickelback mode, or like his Nickelback cycle, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's like your new metal band still trying to make it in 2011, and like, dude, we left that back.
Well,
with
what's
Freddy
even
versus
more
Jason.
so his physical appearance in this film. There used to be a joke a few years ago that you could separate the distinct phases of Nic Cage's career based on his haircut.
Yep. You can.
Because really, he takes on a different aesthetic presentation every few years or so.
Well, this is just like, so he was about to. I think this might be one of the last movies before he gets into some independent stuff. The Frozen Ground, I didn't want to do an episode on. I just think it's one that you should watch. I really enjoyed that, and John Cusack is really good in that movie too.
Yeah, I can't believe that it's a good movie, but I did in fact put it on the list of things to watch, so I'll check it out, see if I agree with you.
Well, let me give the rundown of this movie real quick. So Nic Cage and Ron Perlman. When I looked at the cast, like, Ron Perlman's in here. I'm like, well, that's even more of a reason to go and give this a watch. So they are in the Crusades, quote unquote, and they are just murking people, and they're doing a really good job. And then they have to storm a castle, and their boss says, hey, when you storm this castle, you go in and kill everybody. Well, killing everybody is a bunch of kids, and it doesn't sit well with them, so they decide to desert, and they end up leaving. They get captured, and then in order to keep themselves from, I guess, being hung or beheaded, they have to take this quote-unquote witch to this castle and kill her, or make sure that she's killed in a very specific way. And yeah, the movie just follows that for the most part.
Yeah, it's a fairly straightforward plot.
Pretty simple.
I feel like I could be wrong on this, but I feel like maybe the success of Lord of the Rings and 300 were kind of what got this film greenlit. Because what very little research I did on this, and it's very little. I wasn't about to spend a fucking evening researching Season of the Witch, directed by the fucking Swordfish guy. The little bit of research that I did about this film, I think it was a spec script, so somebody just pounded something out and put it on the market. So it was floating around out there, waiting for someone to purchase it. And I feel like maybe the success of some like sword and sorcery kind of films was what got a what looks like a relatively small production company to pull the trigger on this. Those crusade scenes in particular had a very, very strong 300 vibe to them. We'll
get into those scenes.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
But I wanted to mention, so this came out in 2011. From what I've heard, the movie Seventh Son, also, which came out in 2014, but it was filmed much earlier and shelved for like 5 years. So
yeah, that's the story.
Came out around the same time. I think Dracula Untold came out kind of around this time.
Dracula Untold was later. It was like 2016, I think.
Was it 2016? Yeah, these all kind of came out at that same time. So I think people were just trying to... The 2014 was when Dracula Untold came out. So around this time. I think people were just trying to make franchises, but this movie doesn't really set up for a franchise.
This one feels like I hate to say it, but a little bit half-assed. It's like I don't really think anyone involved in this was giving their best. But it made theaters. It got international distribution. Somebody believed in it just enough to get it out there.
Yeah. So yeah, we want to jump into the plot here.
Yeah, we start off with, I believe it's some shots of some villagers being dragged off to a bridge.
Yeah,
it's some ladies being dragged off to a bridge by what appear to be like some town guards or some knights or something.
The Hound from Game of Thrones, the big guy he's in that very beginning shot. He's the really tall guy and just says, "She fucking drowned or whatever."
Yeah.
He's from Game of Thrones.
This was very obviously partially shot in Croatia.
Yeah.
As a person who's watched a lot of direct-to-video action movies, I know what that shit looks like. It has a look and a feel.
Oh, man.
Most of Van Damme's early 2000s films and pretty much all of Scott Adkins' movies are shot there.
I'm like that with TV shows. I watched How I Met Your Mother, Friends, Seinfeld. They're all in the same lot. Like, you can tell immediately. I'm like, that's New York. That's LA's New York.
Oh, yeah, no joke. But, yeah, I'm not surprised that a Game of Thrones guy is there.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I can't confirm, but one of the guys holding the lady looked like this Belgian fella by the name of Dominic Vandenberg. And, he's like a fake martial artist guy. He has a big long backstory. My friend made me read a bullshit book about him. He got somebody to produce a film starring him. He's a big fat fraud as far as I can tell, but his claim to fame is that he was standing next to Leonardo DiCaprio during the big fight that didn't happen at the end of Gangs of New York. So when they're marching out to meet Bill at the end of the movie, he's the bald guy next to him. That's his claim to fame.
Well, what's his name?
Dominic Vandenberg.
Well, it's interesting you said Gangs of New York. Stephen Graham is in Gangs of New York, and he's in this movie.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that the fake Wahlberg?
That's the fake Wahlberg.
Yeah, that's the fake Wahlberg.
Can we talk about the inconsistency of accents in this real quick? I just wanted to mention
it deserves mention.
Nobody is doing an accent, and everybody should be doing at least an English accent. Like, just bare minimum. You could be doing English. I'll give Ron Perlman an out. He doesn't have to do an accent. It's fine. It would be weird.
It would be weird.
Really
he probably tried, and the director was like, Ron, no, just do what you do.
I don't do accents, So Stephen Graham is English. He's an English actor, and
I thought he was from Brooklyn.
He does such a good job of doing. He does Al Capone. I've mentioned it before. He does Al Capone in the Scorsese Boardwalk Empire. He's really good in that. But yeah, he's British, and when he started talking, I'm like, why is he not British?
I thought he was from Brooklyn. Like, I wrote it in my notes.
Seriously. And then Nic Cage occasionally did an accent at the beginning of the movie.
Occasionally. It comes and goes.
I appreciate Ron Perlman just like, no, I'm not doing that at all.
He's just like, what is this shit? Fuck that.
Yeah. So we're hanging witches.
Yeah, we are hanging witches.
And they're like, confess.
And there's a priest like overseeing the process too.
I actually kind of like this little scene. I'm like, it lets you know that this is going to be a dumb movie, but it was kind of fun at the same time. So they're given the option, like, you can repent and admit that you're a witch, or we're going to hang you. And the one chick's like, no, I'm not a witch at all, blah, 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 blah. And
one chick's just like, I did this and this and this and this.
And
Can I go free now?
And then the one chick's like, you're going to burn in hell, dude. The one who's obviously a witch, we think is obviously a witch. We knock one over, we knock the other one over, and the third one's like, yeah, I did all this stuff. It wasn't witchcraft. And he's like, okay, well, we're still gonna hang you. And she's like, what? Why are you gonna do that? You said you would let me go. Like, no. Your physical body's gonna die, but your soul will be okay. So you're going over. So yeah, okay. Here's the thing. I'm pretty sure if you hang 3 women accused of witchcraft, you're releasing a curse. Like, you can't do that. That's super dangerous.
You can't do that, man.
You cannot do that. Did nobody see Hocus Pocus? Like, that's verbatim what happens in Hocus Pocus.
Now, the funny thing about what happens here is that as soon as they hang these women, and very obviously they either choke to death or have their neck snapped, they also lower them into the river to drown them also, just in case, And then the priest wants them to haul the bodies up. And it's a little confusing here, but he has this, like, bejeweled book on him that he refers to as the Book of Solomon. And apparently he wants to complete some sort of prayer or ritual, and he's very insistent on it. And your hound guy is like,
they're fucking dead, dude.
I just killed those ladies twice.
It's like,
I'm tired. I don't want to haul them up.
It's like opposite of the Mummy. In the Mummy, they're like, we have to read from this book to take away his power, then we kill him. And this, they're like, we got to kill him, and then we can take away their power.
Yeah. I don't know entirely what he was trying to accomplish here. But he comes back. He comes back in the evening, and it's a hideous, absolutely hideous, grotesque, in fact, day for night shot. On a sound stage, so I don't know how you fuck that up, but they did. It's very, very, very blue. By the way, I don't know how many times, I think at least a half dozen times in my notes, I used the phrase "oof, green screen," because holy shit, there are some awful green screen shots in this film.
Yeah.
This being one of them. So the priest comes back in the middle of the night, and he starts hauling bodies up from the river
by himself.
By himself. And he starts reading from his Book of Solomon. I think one of the corpses starts spasming and, like, puking up green shit while he's doing his prayer thing.
Yeah.
So my notes say, like, apparently this resurrects corpses. And turns out, though, the third corpse that he resurrects by reading from this book overpowers him, hulks out, and burns him in the book. Cut to title. Yeah. Season of the Witch. Then we get to the Crusades.
So, Crusades. Now, I read a book about the Knights Templar one time, which was interesting. But all in all, my knowledge of the Crusades is limited to that and what I can vaguely remember of Kingdom of Heaven. That's like 3 hours long, and I remember 5 minutes of it. I don't remember if you've seen that movie.
Supposedly, the director's cut of that film, because apparently there can't be a Ridley Scott movie without a director's cut out there.
Let the man work.
It's much, much better. It's apparently much, much better than the theatrical version.
Well, damn, now I'm going to watch
which
it.
I didn't actually like very much, but now I'm kind of curious.
Now I want to watch it. Yeah, I mean it's Ridley Scott. You give him a chance.
Yeah.
But, so we're swinging swords, and we're getting ready to swing swords. Sorry. So we get a date, and there's this battle that's about to go on, and we meet Nic Cage and Ron Perlman, who are besties in this movie. Did you feel like they had good chemistry? I feel like Nic Cage in real life is like an eccentric nerd. Like he's very successful and he's very nerdy and he's a little off. I feel like Ron Perlman is just drinking Coronas like just in the evening, like just chilling, watching a fucking basketball game, maybe tinkering on a guitar or something. It's like, yeah, I did Hellboy, it was great. Yeah, I just feel like they're two different kinds of dudes.
They do seem like that may be the case. Nic Cage is definitely an eccentric, although most actors are a little goofy. And Ron Perlman he's been doing it a long time. He did that Beauty and the Beast TV show with Linda Hamilton. He's a man of varied tastes. I would not be surprised if they got along when the cameras were off, but when they're on camera together, they never quite feel as cozy as you'd like.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because both of them are very, very charismatic. But yeah. I think this is a case of you're doing it wrong in casting Nic Cage for this particular role, because he can play stoic. He can. It's just he's better when you're not asking that of him. He's better when you let him be unhinged.
Yeah, and he needs a gun. And I think that when you, I'm just saying this is the wrong decade for him. Bad Lieutenant is perfect. It might be the most perfect Cage casting I've ever seen, honestly.
It's spectacular. No, I think that may be his best role. That and maybe Castor Troy.
Nicholas, I have a very specific thing I want you to do with this movie, and I think that you're the only ones that can actually do it. So we're going to do the Bad Lieutenant, and I want you to unhinge yourself.
Is that supposed to be your
Werner? That's my Werner.
That's grossly inaccurate.
I know,
but I love it.
Well, my girlfriend, she studied in what's that? Netherlands. She studied in the Netherlands this summer for a few months. So every time I'd make fun of them, I would use my German accent. She's like, "That's not what they sound like." I'm like, "It is to me. That's what they sound like to me."
Well, in this case, it's grossly inaccurate because Werner Herzog has a very specific speech pattern.
Yeah.
There's a very specific way of talking. It's like this: Nicholas, I need you to go through the back door and shoot the black man in the back of the head.
You sound like Jean-Claude Van Damme doing a Christopher Lambert impression, or Christopher Lambert doing an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression. Somewhere in between those.
I get the Lambert for sure, and the Van Damme, because Van Damme has a particular speech.
This close to watching Aguirre, The Wrath of God the other night. This close, and then I just, you know what? It was just a little too far back than I wanted to. It was in the 70s. I'm like, you know what? Let's stay a little more relevant.
Let's keep it contemporary for now. So yeah, cut back to the Crusades. So Ron Perlman, Felsen, and Nic Cage, Bayman. That is a cool name, by the way.
Yeah, right.
Bayman. The two of them are knights in the Crusades. Obviously, on the white people side of the Crusades.
Yes.
We get a gigantic montage of battles that apparently were all shot on the same soundstage, with largely the same lighting, although they do change weather schemes occasionally, which is kind of nice. It shows a passage of time. And the first battle we get is the Gulf of Edrimet.
Well, Trevor, welcome to World History 101. So I looked up these battles because I was super excited. I'm like, oh, they're dating these battles. You can go back and look these up and see.
Are they at all accurate?
Not even fucking close. Not a single one.
Figured.
One of them isn't even a battle from the Crusades. One of them is from the War of 1812, I do believe.
Oh, jeez.
So the names several of these are names that were from the Crusades. However, the Crusades, these battles happened in 1102 to 1109. The Battle of Tripoli is 1102 to 1109. Battle of Arta is 1105. So we're not even going in order with these. and they're happening about 200 years before they say so in the title, like in the title sequence.
European history is not really my thing. I do know there were multiple crusades. Perhaps the same battle happened several hundred years later. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
I'm saying that no one cracked a history book at this point.
Yeah, I don't think so. Although I do need to give them some credit here. The costuming in this film is actually pretty decent. It looks like some thought and effort was put into it. Although Nic Cage's helmet during the Crusades is hideous.
Oh, it's awful. I was like, how do you get anything done? Do you remember that scene, that first battle that Maximus is going into in Gladiator?
Yeah.
And there's the dude with the giant, like, water buffalo head. I'm like, how are you getting anything done in that thing?
I mean, it's like having drums on the battlefield. You know, you got to have the one guy in the mosh pit who's just like moshing out and gets everybody pumped up. He's not there to fight. He's not there to fight. He's there to have abs and be sweaty and you know dance around and get everybody pumped up.
I wanted to just ask Dominic Sena, I'm like, dude, so what was with the dates? What was with the dates wrong in there? And I feel like his reaction would be, dude, what the fuck do you want from me? It's a Nic Cage Crusades movie. What do you want?
I'm just imagining him like whipping
doesn't
around,
matter.
Just having that in the holster because he's had enough.
He will lay. I think he would just lay into you over that. Are you fucking coming to me about dates? Fuck you! Just super aggressive.
Just flips all the furniture in the room.
He's
like, whoa.
Fucking
whoa.
Dewey Cox ripping sinks off in the bathroom. Just.
Well, yeah. Speaking of dates, the first one we have listed here is 1332.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last is 1344.
Yeah.
So we have a very long span of time in which the two of these fellas have been fighting and chopping people up all throughout the Middle East.
You mentioned this off the air. You talked about how this kind of resembles Fellowship of the Ring, and that was one of your theories as to why this might have gotten greenlit, is the success of Lord of the Rings, and it's similar. They're doing Legolas and Gimli. They're like, I'm gonna get 60.
Blatantly.
I'm gonna get 60.
Blatantly.
Yeah.
What they do the first time we see them is to establish that they're buddies.
Yes.
They have some not so witty banter back and forth where they basically say like, oh, let's have a competition to see who's going to kill the most people. So that it's basically just supposed to spell it out to us that they're friends and they're okay with killing. And yeah, it very much feels like Legolas and Gimli.
Sorry, another side segue here. Did you ever see that the Spike TV show where they compare warriors from history? Like they will take. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. They made a really shitty video game out of it too.
There was one in particular.
Deadliest Warrior.
Deadliest Warrior. They did one on Vikings versus samurai. And I went in thinking that Vikings would probably be the ones that would win. And then I saw the samurai, and I'm like, oh, samurai would have fucked everybody up. And especially in these battle scenes, like where they're wielding these giant swords and axes, I'm like, the samurai would have just been slicing motherfuckers up, just ripping. Like it would just be disgusting. It would look like the Crazy 88, like pieces of like you can come out of here with your lives, but leave your limbs because those are mine now.
Oh, and typically, like a properly equipped samurai would have a mount also. And I'm not sure how many horses the Vikings had. That would probably be a difference maker, I'd imagine.
I feel like wealthy Vikings had horses. I feel like that's how you measure
wealthy
Vikings.
Well-off Vikings.
Well-off Vikings.
Vikings with monocles.
They weren't traded for. Those were earned. Like we didn't give you blankets and pelts for that. No, we took those horses. So yeah, sorry.
So yeah, during all these battle scenes, we do intercut some footage. Like there's like one cutaway to the two of them drinking in a tavern. It's
shitty.
basically meant to show that they're okay with killing, as long as it's.
Got a couple. They got a couple Bud Light limes, some winches. Yeah, they're doing it.
Yeah, they do the Three Musketeers thing, where it's like, yeah, I just murdered my first person. I should probably have a beer and smooch a lady for the first.
I feel like
time.
the ladies would just gravitate to Ron Perlman because of the size of his head. Like, God, he's got a big fucking head. Like, let's just go over to
how
him.
else would anyone get in there? Like Nic Cage is like, hey, Ron, you mind making some room? Like, help a brother out. I'm sorry, Nick.
It takes up a lot of room.
It's just, yeah, there just ain't enough room for you. Sorry, bud. But yeah, during all this, we keep cutting back to I don't know what you'd call him, but he's like a battle priest.
I'd call him the boss.
Basically, yeah, he's the boss. He's the hype man on the battlefield who's basically rallying the troops, the white people, with religious stuff, saying like,
These
you're doing
people
this in the name of God, kill everyone.
These people don't like Jesus, so you have to kill them because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, do not yield until every enemy of God has fallen is basically what we're dealing with here. So at one point, though, in 1344, so about 10 years after we first saw them together, and by the way, younger Nic Cage in this movie, the reason why I mentioned Nickelback is because he is a dead ringer for Chad Kroeger.
Yeah,
the first time we see him.
Do we have goatees in the Crusades? I don't feel like that was a fashion. I don't feel like that was a style.
Well, the time traveler that is Nic Cage had one, and he also had like frosted, dirty blonde, curly hair.
Thank you for saying time traveler, because I was watching this and I felt like at one point when the whole crew are talking later in the movie, I'm like, they look and feel like time travelers that all were transported back to this time and are like stuck, and we're like, well, we got to take care of this shit. That's how we get out of here.
It's like, how do we get home, Nick? It's like, well, I think we should kill this witch, and then I think things will figure themselves out.
Well, we gotta hurry because I'm fresh out of weed.
But yeah, at some point though during this battle, Nic Cage stabs a girl, and we get a slow motion shot of him going, ah, and she's going, ah, and in that instant, apparently he just develops a conscience. Yeah. He's probably killed 500 people over the past decade, but this one killing, for some reason, that pushes him over the edge. Ron Perlman doesn't even do it, but he's just like witnessing it, and his face is saying like, "Oh man,
he just like,
yeah." They both develop a conscience in that very instant. And,
he does. It is a little white girl. Like they've been killing.
Yeah, maybe that's what did it.
I think that's what did it, because they were killing not white people for the most part. And
he's
then,
like, oh man, I've been killing people for 10 years, and this is the first time I killed a white person.
I mean,
I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not into it.
I'm not into it. I don't dig it. But this leads to Bayman and Felsen confronting the boss, the battle priest, or whatever the fuck you want to call him.
Battle priest is, that's it.
That sounds very metal. It sounds like a band, actually.
Battle priest. That's a Gwar song. I'm pretty sure it sounds like a Gwar song.
I'm sure it is, or anyway. So Nic Cage is like, I just killed my first white woman, and it's not sitting well with me. I think I'm going to pack up and get out of here. And the battle priest isn't happy about that. And he tells them they can't leave, but Nic Cage and Ron Perlman decide to turn their back on the crusade after having fought for a decade plus. Ron Perlman very poignantly uses the phrase, "Let's get the hell out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And they head to Croatia. I mean, the coast of Styria.
Two things. One, my notes say, "Can you leave the Crusades?" I don't think
they
you
just
can.
fucking walk out of there.
Walk out of there.
They walked out of the Middle East.
Walked out of the Crusades. And then they're also, when you said that we cut to Croatia, they are taking the best described as the path less traveled. Because they are walking on rocks next to the ocean.
Yeah, they went from the middle of the desert to the coast.
This is not a place you walk.
No. No. But yeah, they walk through a gladiator-esque wheat field.
Yes.
They find a shack. Decently lit, by the way. The interior of the shack has a nice atmosphere. We're only there for like 20 seconds or something. and they find some moldy corpses.
Yeah.
They look spore ridden. Like if they was loaves of bread, you would have tossed them.
So this is how I have this sequence written down. I have gross, dead farmer, maybe not, burn it.
I will stick with that. That is exactly what happens. Although we get an attempt at a jump scare here, where one of the corpses is a lady. It's a what looks like a husband and wife in a bed together.
So yeah,
she moves for some reason, and then she immediately dies.
So since this movie's called Season of the Witch, I was assuming a witch came in and dropped some kind of curse on them. But what I think has happened is that they've fallen to leprosy. And that's why she gives that twitch. Like, her husband's dead, but she's just, like, nearly dead.
Well, what's goofy is it's not even really a twitch. It's more like just a leisurely, just, like, reach. It's like she's trying to give her old man the reach around.
Yeah, like,
but then she, like, dies halfway through.
It's a quick jolt, and then we just have them walking away, and the place is burning. Which,
yeah.
Ron Perlman's like, that didn't seem right, and I'm with Nic Cage in this one, like, no, that was the right move. Burn that place down. That place is disgusting.
Also, they, I think they stole their horses.
They didn't steal them. They took them.
They adopted them.
They adopted them.
Adopted the dead people's horses.
Let's be honest. They were not using those horses. Those horses were not being used.
We get I think my third green screen in my notes here, because we come to a hill overlooking a town, and the town has like a bunch of birds circling it, and the town is very obviously placed there in the shot via CGI. And it's not very good.
It looks like Minas Tirith. Like, the town itself doesn't look like Minas Tirith, but it's like in Lord of the Rings when you get to Minas Tirith. It just in the background, like, oh, look at that.
Well, there's something called match move when it comes to compositing, like special effects and stuff. And the idea is you're matching the movement of a manufactured object in the frame with the movement of the camera. And if you do it right, it's very seamless. It looks like that thing is actually inhabiting space because it's moving in time with the camera. In this case, this town is like wiggling and wobbling around. It's like, that is not really there.
So yeah, they go into town, and it's super gross. It kind of reminded me of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's like Bring Out Your Dead, literally. It's pretty gross around there. They're just walking through. People are coughing. It does not look like a happy place.
There are flagellants in the street too. The guys whacking themselves.
Yeah, I think that this is the same set from Game of Thrones. I think this is Winterfell because they do film in Croatia as well. It
looked like a legit historical building of some sort.
I'm almost positive it's Winterfell from Game of Thrones. But they get in there and they go talk to a dude about some better horses, and somebody pulls out Nic Cage's sword, and they're trying to keep it under wraps that they're deserters. That people aren't really happy about that. Somebody sees his sword, and basically they're giving up. Like they get into a sword fight here, if I'm not mistaken.
It's more of a scrap than a sword fight.
Yeah.
While they're in the town, they're attempting to buy new horses because Nic Cage points out that the moldy people horses are a little raggedy and probably won't be strong enough to carry them much farther. So they're trying to buy new horses. They have some money on them.
Yeah.
But a kid is like trying to move his shit, and I think he's like trying to put the saddle on the horse or something, and yeah, he drops the sword. There's a Crusader's crest. It's like a Teutonic Knight crest on the hilt of Cage's sword, and this leads to like some of the local guards coming after him and Perlman, and really generic action music starts playing. It's very flat, very boring. But yeah, we get into like a scrap where I don't think anyone's killed, but a lot of noses are broken. A lot of people get knocked on their ass. The way this battle concludes, though, it is very Cagean. It was one of the very few instances of Cagean acting in the movie. So from the first time we're introduced to these two characters, Bayman and Felsen, it's I think intended to be spelt out to us that these guys are super badasses.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've been they've been doing nothing but killing people for 10 years plus. So they're just manhandling these people, but there's some guys overlooking from a balcony with crossbows, and they're shooting at Nic Cage, and Nic Cage is just kind of like lazily deflecting these arrows, like no problem.
Like, yeah, he's like Steven Seagal, like 2014, blocking hits. Like it's.
Oh yeah, no, he's like voguing, and the arrows are hitting off of his arms and stuff. But then at one point, he deflects one, and he just puts his palms out, and he just says, "Fine,
fine."
He just says the word "fine," and that's the end of the fight. He's just like, you know what, this shit it's been fun. I'm done.
Hats off to anybody that's doing fight choreography against Steven Seagal these days, because the amount of mouth breathing that he has to do through those, just snarling and mouth breathing and just belching.
I'm sure he's just wheezing through his nostrils. Oh gosh, breathing through your mouth shows weakness. You can't do that. So you just breathe really hard through your nose.
So yeah, they get taken to the dungeon, and they're like, yeah, where'd you get this? They're like, you guys are deserters, whatever. They put them in the dungeon, and they're basically coming to terms that they're gonna die. What's gonna happen? Like, oh no, they'll probably burn us, or what was the other one? Chop off our heads or burn us or something like that.
Something like that. Very important to note. Right before they get to the dungeon, they are taken to see His Eminence, played by the coolest person that ever lived, Christopher Lee. Lord of the Rings alum, in fact. Holy shit, the makeup they did on him was impressive.
If you say anything, like, if there's anything good to say about this movie, that was really good.
I had trouble looking at that, actually.
It was pretty gross. It was
gross.
I heard the dude talking, and I'm like, I know that voice. What is that? And then I looked at the I must have just scanned over Christopher Lee completely, because then when I saw him, I'm like, oh, Christopher Lee's in this. I'm like, that's him. That's okay. Makes sense.
I mean, he's only in 2 scenes in the movie, and this is his only speaking scene, I think, in the whole thing. But he's basically the coolest person that ever lived, and he has an amazing voice.
You know how cool he is? I watched episode 3 I mentioned to you earlier. His fighting sequences in that movie, he's 83 years old doing those scenes in there.
There's a lot of doubling going on.
There's doubling, but there's a few scenes where he has to move kind of quickly.
They also use CGI masks. I'm not sure how much you caught that. I mean, when I was in college, I watched a lot of action movies, a lot of kung fu movies and stuff. So I watched the lightsaber scenes in that movie in particular quite a bit. Some of the doubling and the CGI masks that they put on people for shots where they couldn't do it from behind are fucking hilarious. The Emperor in particular.
I've seen some, yeah.
Oh
my god.
Before he turns into Palpatine, like Emperor Palpatine, when he's still the senator, holy shit, the CGI mask they put on whatever actor that was just looks hilarious.
My jaw dropped when I saw that last night.
It's like looking at a puppet. Like it's like, what is that plasticky looking thing with the lightsaber?
Unlike anything I've ever seen in that movie. It's crazy.
I mean, like Jet Li fighting himself in The One was slightly more convincing. I hate to say it.
I'm gonna watch The Hound of Baskervilles. It's a Sherlock Holmes book, but Christopher Lee's in it, and I think I'm gonna check that one out, see what that's all about.
He is super cool, man.
Yeah,
and his speaking voice is
just great stuff.
But yeah, His Eminence, I'm guessing like the head priest of the town, gives them the classic fantasy movie spiel of a great plague has descended upon the land. We need heroes. Will you help us out? So he tells them that there's a witch. I think they call her the Blick Witch.
Yeah,
and the objective is we've captured this witch. She's responsible for the plague. Only by escorting her to this abbey where she can be judged and presumably killed can we remove the plague. And so he's looking for people to aid in the escort of the witch. And being as these 2 guys are Teutonic knights, maybe you want to help a brother out, and they say no.
So he's being helped by his doctors, which is a really creepy scene. Like when you go in there, they've got like the long beak
plague doctor mask.
Yeah.
Nerds on the internet love that shit, by the way.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you've seen Eyes Wide Shut, but I'm sure you know of the sex cult orgy. I'm wondering
the basic gist.
If Kubrick like tried using these masks at one point and it was just too creepy. He's like, no.
Well, I mean, it's an actual part of European history.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, the plague doctor mask in particular is an aesthetic that people on the internet really.
It's terrifying.
They jerk off to it.
It's creepy.
Yeah, it's iconic and it's creepy.
Nic Cage refuses.
Yeah, now they're in the dungeon.
Yeah,
by the way, because they said no.
They said no. So they're like, "What do you think is going to happen to us? Are they going to hang us or burn us alive?" And he's like, "Well, what would you prefer?" And Perlman's like, "I'd rather get hanged. Don't want to burn alive."
I like my chances being hung. I think the noose would have some trouble getting over my head.
Yeah, be problematic for the hangman.
Now, by the way, this is the black light prison. I don't know why it's seemingly lit entirely with black lights, but the man who brought you swordfish and gone in 60 seconds.
But yeah, I think the witch is down there in the dungeon as well, just a few cages over.
Yeah, cages.
A few cages over. My note says, Christopher Lee got a case of the leprosy. So, the black witch.
The witch is, I mean, the first time we see her, she basically looks like a sad young girl. And she is played by Claire Foy, who, holy shit, she is having a moment. If you look at her filmography from just the last year, she is on top of
Killing
the world.
It?
Oh yeah, Unsane. That is who directed that? That's the Ocean's 11 guy, Steven Soderbergh.
Oh, she's in First Man, The Crown.
Which is she's up for Oscars. She's the new girl with the dragon tattoo, and she's on that Crown TV show that like my mom and other people are really into.
I thought that was Emily Blunt. I didn't even realize that wasn't Emily Blunt.
They look kind of similar.
And as the Queen specifically.
Yeah, but Claire Foy is having a moment, so it's kind of cute to see her, like, 8 years earlier, and she's doing this.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, we see that she has some cuts on her back, and she's like crying in the night. Yeah. And based on Nic Cage's face acting, it's inferred that he feels something in seeing this.
Yes.
Seems fitting, being as the emotional trigger that got him to walk away from the Crusades was him stabbing a girl. So the sight of seeing this girl harmed and like in pain, I think is what changes him and makes him decide to join the trip to bring her to that abbey. Again, presumably to kill her.
Yes.
And, so we learn through like a briefing sequence, and by the way, the first person they talked to when they got to the town was a knight by the name of Eckhart, who is involved in this trek as well. He's played, funny enough, by the evil doctor guy that was in the 2011 thing. Yeah,
it took me forever to figure out where I'd seen this guy from. Like, I recognized his face immediately, and I'm like, where?
He so badly wants to be Stellan Skarsgård, but he's just not.
He's too ominous for Stellan. Like, Stellan Skarsgård is creepy, but this guy is too ominous. Like, I thought this guy was going to turn any minute, because he just has that...
He's stone-faced in the extreme. And what you had mentioned about consistent accents in the film... His stands out because he has that like Scandinavian thing going on where it's like he stands out.
He's keeping it on just holding it back.
Yeah, he's trying, but he stands out a bit. But yeah, he's the knight, and then there's also a priest who's heading up the operation by the name of De Belzac.
Yeah,
which is like
De Balzac.
De Balzac.
De Balzac. Yeah.
So he's heading up the operation. But as it so happens, Cage points out that this is going to be a long, treacherous journey. We should probably get a guide.
Yeah.
So the priest only knows of one person who could guide them in the direction they're headed, because they're heading to the Wayward Forest, I think is what they call it.
Sounds haunted.
Woods. Sounds fun. So, as it so happens, the priest is aware of a gentleman who is currently in the stocks and has, based on the moldy shit around his face, people have been throwing some shit. This guy's name is Hagamar, and this was the gentleman that you had mentioned at the top of the broadcast.
Stephen Graham. Straight up from the Bronx, apparently.
Yeah,
my
note says a swindler ... from Brooklyn.
Dude, I don't know why they're like have him do an American. There's no reason for him to have an American accent. Just let him be British. It's okay if nobody else can do it. Just let him be British.
Or cast a Wahlberg or something.
Oh my God!
Ike Barinholtz as Hagamar.
Ike Barinholtz.
I swear, when I saw Gangs of New York, I thought he was Ike Barinholtz.
I fucking loved him in that Neighbors movie. Like, put him in more stuff like this. Like, yeah, put him in something like this where... Yeah, I know how to fucking get there. Just him doing a Wahlberg impression.
Yeah, I know how to fucking get there.
Are there any movies where Mark Wahlberg has an accent? Like a foreign accent?
Oh, no.
I don't think it exists.
I don't think so, and I'm glad. Although, now I kind of want to see that.
He tries to do one in Rockstar. Because one of the things in that movie is that he's supposed to fit in with the band, and they're all British. So when he comes in, he starts with a British accent when he first talks to the press, and then it wanes during the interview, and then it just drops off completely.
Well, I don't know if it was an authentic attempt. I think it was meant to be funny. But in Pain and Gain, he tries to do a Scarface impression that is just horrendous.
This close to watching this the other night, watching Pain and Gain the other night, because I haven't seen it
I
since...
enjoy Pain and Gain.
I haven't seen it since...
that movie.
I do too, but I just haven't seen it since I originally watched it when it was new. I just want to see The Rock.
I'm a doer, goddammit.
I just want to see The Rock again in that role.
Especially when he's on the coke later in the movie.
Oh, when he loses his big toe?
Yeah.
Oh my God. It is too fun. So yeah, they get Hagamar and like, can you lead us? And he's like, yeah, maybe, probably not, but sure, yeah, I can do it. Seriously, like that's essentially how the conversation.
That is kind of how the conversation goes.
The next little note I have is the village set looks a lot like Winterfell and Game of Thrones, but yeah, they're about ready to head out. And I have a note here. I'm not sure at what. I don't know if it's before they leave the village or whatever, but Perlman's character apparently spent a year's wages on a French hooker. Did you catch that?
That comes a little later.
Okay.
That comes a little later.
Okay, so
that's a campfire story.
Okay.
But before we leave, we're down in the prison fetching the witch because we need to get her into this big ass carriage that we have. It's a prison carriage. But when we're trying to pull her out of the prison, she jumps on some people and starts trying to wreck some shit.
Yeah.
And it's pointed out that she is unnaturally strong. She definitely appears to be, given that she's a very small woman and these are all pretty big dudes. But they sedate her, quote, with a blow to the back of the head.
Yeah.
So as we're loading up the carriage and we're heading out of the town to head to the Abbey, we get this crane shot that pulls back into like the spire in the middle of the village, and it looks like they're doing the last rites for Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
So he dies off screen. It's very unfortunate that such a cool guy is only in the movie for one speaking scene and then dies.
Yeah.
But oh well. Oh yeah, by the way, there's an ugly kid in the room with the most horrendous mustache I've ever seen.
He looks like I have this written down. He looks like Jorge Villalobos from Meet the Fockers. He looks like Greg Focker's illegitimate child.
Actually, yeah, he kind of does, except uglier and with the it's like the ugliest beginnings of a mustache you'll ever see. And he's in the room, and the whole time when I'm taking my notes, watching this kid cross himself as Christopher Lee's getting the last rites, I'm like, oh god, he better not be in the rest of the movie. Oh, he's a main character.
As soon as you saw him, you knew he was going to be in the movie.
Yeah, I knew he was going to be in the rest of the movie, but I was just crossing my fingers and hoping for the best. But no, he's basically the main character. After we're introduced to the mustachioed child, we're hanging out with Eckhart and Da Balzac. they're riding up front in the carriage, and we get to see them have a little talk about the nature of witchcraft. And Eckhart, the knight, seems suspicious. He's not quite certain that this gal is in fact a witch. And de Balzac, the more faithful, the more faith-driven of the group, seems to be adamant that she is. Mm-hmm. So right from the get-go, we start to see a theme emerging in the characterization and the storytelling of the movie, where it's like, this is a movie about like faith and belief, and our two central characters, Felsen and Bayman, are coming from a place of potentially having lost their faith to some extent, and they're now our heroes, escorting a witch to an abbey wherein some people are supposed to perform some sort of religious ritual. By the way, oof green screen number 4. Oof green screen horse chat. Because we cut to Nic Cage and Ron Perlman talking side by side while they're riding on horses along with the carriage. And they're just like bipping and bopping, and the background is just kind of floating. It's just like, they're not outside. In fact, there's not even a horse in the room. I'm sure like Dominic Sena was probably like arching his back, and like Ron Perlman was on top of him or something. He's like, you don't understand, like I need to channel the horse, I need to get the rocking just right.
See, I think Perlman was probably just trolling him. He's like, I'm not understanding what you want me to do. Can you maybe demonstrate? And they like does it like, oh, okay, well, it's just not working with this other guy. I think I need you to do it.
It's like, yeah, I think this needs the director's touch.
He just looks over and winks
Guillermo would do it. I'm just saying, Guillermo would do it.
Hey, he would pronounce.
You mean Guillermo? No, what? I call him Guillermo.
Guillermo. It's a term of endearment. No, he would say it.
Endearment. He's earned it.
He would say it right. Perlman is in that Kronos movie, and he's speaking Spanish in there. He does it pretty well.
Really?
Yeah.
That's magnificent.
I'm not crazy about Kronos, but I liked Ron Perlman in that movie.
It's an early Guillermo. But yeah, they Cage and Perlman, they banter about the time in which Perlman was robbed by a girl.
Yes, I
believe this is during a fireside chat or something. Basically, it's like bro talk.
Yeah,
like they have like a campfire going, and the joke is that Ron Perlman dumped like a year of his funds into hanging out with a French lady, and I think she just stole all his shit at some point.
He said it was so worth it, though.
Yeah, no, he seemed like he didn't have any regrets about that.
Money well spent.
While we're on the road, though, Perlman discovers that we have somebody tailing us. It's someone on horseback.
Yeah. And
they decide to break off from the road and ambush this person who's following them. As so happens, it's this gentleman. It's this kid by the name of Kai, I think?
Jorge Villalobos.
Jorge Villalobos. So this kid wants to join them. I guess he's looking for the honor and glory of being a knight or something, and he sees joining them in their quest as a way to earn that title. He's kind of a prick to Perlman.
Yeah,
he calls him an old man at one point.
He pisses off Ron Perlman.
It's kind of great, actually.
When his face changes, like that looked real.
Yeah, it's like it's like you done woke the beast. It's like he starts turning red like Hellboy, starts sprouting some horns. Nic Cage, calm down, Ron. Not now. So Perlman decides to defend his honor, and he challenges the boy to a duel. So they step off from the road, and they go at it a bit. It's a nice little sword fight skirmish. It's conducted in that very medieval European style of heavy, weighty choreography. This isn't Errol Flynn shit where we're fencing. This is like Perlman has extensive doubling during this fight, unfortunately. I always forget how old he is. Like, he's not a young man.
I don't know. I don't think you've seen it, but it's on it's been on Netflix. Pottersville. I think that's the most recent movie I've seen of him. He's getting pretty old. He's looking pretty old in there.
I think one of the more recent ones I've seen of his is Skin Trade. It's not as dirty as it sounds. It's just Thai. Nice. Is Tony Jaa, Michael Jai White, Dolph Lundgren, and Ron Perlman. And Ron Perlman is playing a Russian bad guy in it, because that's what you do with your Ron Perlman in a direct-to-video movie. Yeah, he was trying a little bit, but yeah, he's definitely getting up there in years. Keep forgetting. Also Pacific Rim, by the way. Good old Guillermo production. So the fight basically ends in a draw, ish. Perlman kind of humbles the boy a little bit. Perlman has a great line in here where he's chasing the kid, and the kid like jumps between some narrow trees, and Perlman yells at him, "What the devil was that? Stand and fight like a man, you little jackrabbit!"
Yeah, I thought that was pretty. I laughed out loud to that. I thought it was pretty funny.
That's cute, you know. But then we cut to another campfire scene, because why not? We're dudes on a road trip in the Middle Ages.
It feels like each one of the characters has their own relationship with how they perceive. Or they each have their own perception of the witch. And we've said like Nic Cage is he's on the fence. Like he's kind of cautious, but at the same time he looks like he feels bad for her. Perlman doesn't give a fuck. He's like maybe the one who doesn't have any fucks to give about the witch. He's just in it because I think he's Cage. He's Cage's buddy. He'll do whatever Cage does. The kid is scared shitless of her. So is Hagamar. He's like, she's just staring at me. He's like, don't look at her, dude. He's like, I can't help it. She's staring right at me. Like he's clearly afraid of her. Go for it.
This is around the time that it starts becoming clear that she. It's not explicit that she's supernatural at this point, although she is apparently unnaturally strong. But the things that she's saying to everyone on a case-by-case basis definitely feel like she has some insight into their character that she probably shouldn't, which does seem a little supernatural, because it's very manipulative the way she's speaking to everyone, where she taps into exactly what they need to hear from her to get what she wants.
I took it as she does have supernatural powers, because when she's trying to escape initially, when they're like, we have to get her into the cage, and she's like fucking these dudes up a little bit, I'm like, there's only one woman in cinematic history that weighs 95 pounds that could actually throw these dudes around, and that's Sarah Connor in Terminator 2. I just rewatched that. She could actually be throwing some punches and like getting some shit done.
I mean, I don't know how many pull-ups she knocked off, but
quite a few.
A lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when she talks with Cage, for instance, she's appealing to his guilty conscience, I guess.
Yeah.
And his more stoic side, because every time she talks to him, it's either pleading with him like a wounded child seeking shelter would do, or it's being complimentary towards him and like pointing out that, oh, you're the good one among all these shitbags. You're the good one. I like you. And he's like, whatever. But at this point, she does claim that Dabalsac had hurt her.
Yeah.
And that comes across as probably a way to get Cage to buddy up to her. And it's funny too, because like immediately after this, Dabalsac shows up and he's like, "Hey, by the way, she's a witch. She's a deceiver. She'll say things to manipulate you." And Cage is like, again, whatever.
Whatever, man. I don't care.
I can dig it. Whatever. And then Eckhart volunteers to take first watch of the witch. Eckhart, who has a dead daughter, and you're going to leave him alone with the supernatural lady that resembles his daughter. Okay, that's smart.
Yeah.
So Eckhart and Dabalsac, they talk some politics. Eckhart thinks that the church wants to kill the girl to quell the masses because of like the plague and the crusades and stuff. Where it's like, yeah, unhappiness is kind of a trend right now. We should probably do something to distract people from that. conversation basically goes nowhere, but it's like one of those historical details where it's like whoever wrote the script probably like had a Cliff's Note version of the Crusades and of medieval history. And it's like, oh yeah, that's yeah, I should definitely put that in the script. That would really blow people's minds. And the girl escapes by attacking the knight and the priest, so Eckhart and de Balzac.
I have in my notes, the witch is loose. And we get to a town which had to have been like over the hill, because it's literally like right there.
Right fucking there.
Yeah, right there. And this sequence I thought was kind of cool. They're basically split up, and the guys are going through this town, trying to find her. And there's people in the town. It's like, it's raining, of course. But there's people in the town. Someone shuts their door or shuts their window. Someone just scurries across, and then they start chasing her down. They find her, and they're chasing her down, and they grab her. It's not her. It's just a girl who looks like her.
Yeah, that was cute. All the build-up, actually. Like, it's not that kind of movie, unfortunately. This isn't a scary movie.
No.
In fact, I'm not even entirely sure what the objective of this movie is.
I don't either.
It falls flat in most regards, but
yeah.
It's definitely not a scary movie, even though it has supernatural elements. But the mood building during this scene is actually executed pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, good use of sound, good like you said, like good use of shadows of like figures scurrying in the darkness, and then the fake out of having them grab a girl and then have it just be some random girl that has plague. Like,
yeah,
that was kind of interesting. Yeah, it's like ooh, God, don't touch it.
Yeah.
But like the build up was kind of nice, and then it goes like action mode kind of, and it steals all that energy by injecting too much of it. But after we get through the town, we come to a mass grave. It's a decently constructed set, I think, where it's basically like it's almost like a maze. Like,
yeah.
Imagine like a hedge maze made of like mud walls, and it's all probably like 7 feet tall, so you can't see over any of it. So it's like trenches, basically. It's like a trench maze. And we're looking for the girl, and Eckhart starts having some hallucinations. Or maybe they aren't.
Yeah, I looked down. Like, I just happened to look down at this point, and he's having a vision here, and he's talking to what he thinks is his daughter, and what ends up happening is he starts running towards the kid, the altar boy, and he ends up impaling him. I looked up and I'm like, oh shit, what the fuck just happened? Something happened. I'm like, well, the kid didn't do it on purpose, clearly. I mean, he had no idea. And he basically stabs him right in the heart, and they piece it together.
Eckhart offs himself. He runs right towards what he thought was his daughter, and then it turns out to be the mustachioed wonder wielding a sword, who whips around just in time for him to run himself through on his sword. In the middle of this, we get a plague dog. I thought that was one of the coolest images in the whole movie. Basically, it's just a dog that's like eating a dead body, and Nic Cage is like trying to shoo it with his torch. And the makeup job that they did on this dog looks fucking sick, but kind of cool at the same time. It looks straight out of Resident Evil, is what I'm saying.
When we get to the wolf scene, I got some thoughts on the wolf scene.
So do I. But when Eckhart falls, everybody comes together. They're like, "Oh shit, someone's down!" And as it so happens, the girl is nearby. The girl goes straight for Perlman. Mm-hmm. I don't know why she went for the biggest guy, but
I mean, if you take, I guess if you take out the biggest guy, you just have to work your way through the.
I guess, but I mean,
link.
If I was to pick a fight with anyone in that group, it wouldn't be him.
I mean, if you can take down the boss first and then just kind of work your way back through the levels, it's much easier. I get where she's coming from, but
I mean, if you beat Shang Tsung first, Scorpion ain't nothing to worry about. But yeah, she starts trying to beat on Ron Perlman, and And then she does this thing where, she, like, after they overpower her and take her off of him, she claims that, oh my god, I was just running out of fear because of the ball sack. And they believe her.
Yeah, I have Nic Cage in here. I'm like, Cage is a real sucker for this. I'm like, chop her head off or something.
Yeah. But yeah, we cut to morning, and they're burying Eckhart, again, in Croatia.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, during the burial scene, I wrote a note to myself, holy fuck, Hagamar is with them?
Yeah.
It's like, I hadn't seen him in at least 10 minutes. Like, at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, he's about to turn here pretty soon.
Like, during that whole village scene, he was nowhere to be found.
So, no, yeah, I would
did they just not have him on set or something?
He doesn't really want to be there. Yeah. And like, this could be his, like, this is my opportunity to get away if they all die or if they all just, like, run off. Like, I can probably get away. But I just think they didn't think about him. Like, yeah, fuck.
I think that's more than likely the case. They just forgot. It's like, oh yeah, Hagamar's here. But yeah, we get yet another scene of DeBalsac telling Nic Cage, she's a deceiver. She's manipulating us. Don't listen to anything she says. And then immediately we cut to Nic Cage having an extended conversation with her.
Yeah, right. I don't like the priest DeBalsac. I don't like him at all. Like,
his name is DeBalsac, and he has that stupid monk haircut.
Yeah, just it's annoying.
I mean, it's interesting because he is annoying, but at the same time, he's the most important figure in the cast for moving the plot forward.
For the most part,
like, he's pretty much responsible for everything that happens in the movie. So he's necessary from a screenwriting standpoint, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, I don't particularly like this guy. But yeah, I think this is around the time that we're hauling the carriage, and we get the first of not that many, actually, Lord of the Rings travel shots. Basically what I'm saying is like a helicopter flyby shot of our group of heroes traveling a great distance. They probably couldn't afford a helicopter or something for more than one shot. And then we get to the bridge, which the marketing for this film, this is the only thing I think I remember from the marketing.
Really?
Other than the carriage melting. I remember the carriage turning molten and melting, and I remember the scene on the bridge in the commercials.
So there's you mentioned the marketing on some movies, and I'm like, what? How do you remember the marketing on this? And I forget there's a 4-year gap in my life while in the military.
It's called the Navy.
So, where I didn't, like, movies just came up. Like, we would just get a movie on the ship's TV. Like, we had the ship's movie channels that they would play down in the store. Like, we'd put a movie on. So, like, the movie The Sitter was a Jonah Hill movie, and it just played one night. I'm like, there's a new Jonah Hill movie? I had no idea. Like, we would just get new movies. So, like, I'm like, marketing for this. I'm like, how do you remember the marketing? I'm like, well, I wouldn't remember the marketing because this was 2011. I was right in it at that time, so.
Well, that's why I remember it for you.
Thank you.
Living that civilian lifestyle.
Just got Nic Cage movies on tap whenever you want them.
Whenever I want.
So yeah, do they get the carriage over? Yeah, because the wolves come after this. So yeah.
Yeah, after.
So they're on the other side of the side of the bridge, and I'm like, there's no fucking way. And I'm looking at this bridge, I'm like, there's no way that they're gonna make it across this thing. No fucking way. And they're like, what are we gonna do? And Nic Cage just takes his horse and just starts walking across.
Without a word said, he just takes off.
But he's like, we got to get this done. We have to go across this bridge. So he just walks across, and he gets across, and he's like, okay, here's how we're gonna do it. Take everything off of the carriage. This carriage, by the way, weighs a metric ton because it has to be made completely of iron. Like, everything. Like, there's nothing light about this carriage. It's literally a traveling jail cell. And he's like, we're going to get everything off the wagon, take the horses off, and we're going to... There's no way they can push this thing. Like, there's just no way. Leave her in, but we're going to take everything off. So they have the horses pulling this over, I think they take the horses over first, and then they attach a rope to it, and they're like, have the horses start pulling the carriage while you guys push it in the back. Mm-hmm. At this point, Jorge Villalobos, he falls off the bridge, and the witch girl just catches him and pulls him up with one hand. So you're like, okay, 100% she's a witch. Like there's
supernatural powers confirmed.
But there is no reason for her to save him, so she's building trust.
Yeah, she shoots him a look here and there, and he's the young guy in the group. That's, if I was a witch and I was trying to manipulate a bunch of dudes, of course you do that. Well, he's for the guy with the hormones.
I was gonna say he's in the heart of puberty, and he's about
clearly with that facial hair.
he's exploding sexually, and he's like, you know what, give her a bath, fix her hair up a little bit. She's kind of hot, They don't really. She's not. They don't have her. She's not hot in this movie. They do a good job of making her kind of gross of the time.
Yeah, she got that greasy hair thing going
and dirty face. Yeah.
She doesn't exfoliate. But
by the grace of whatever god Nic Cage prays to, they get this carriage all over this bridge. I don't know how they do it. It's incredible. But as soon as they get over, the bridge collapses.
Yeah,
and they're exhausted. They get over there, just fuck. I'm like, yeah, that, like, the mountain couldn't fucking. He couldn't push that across there. Like, it would have been a feat that he would have started and then blew his intestines out of his groin because the thing weighs so much. I'm just saying. They get it across, and
while they are pushing it across, at one point they're using some ropes to like keep it from rolling too quickly.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And Dabalsack scrapes his hands very badly. He gets rope burns.
Yeah.
I don't get why he didn't have gloves, whereas the two guys in the front certainly did. It's like,
And
Dabalsack, you came unprepared.
Ron Perlman's got his John McClane fire hose wrapped around his waist, which I was like, no, don't you do it.
You're going to cut yourself in half, buddy.
I thought they were going to kill him. Like
I thought so too.
Ugh.
No, I thought they were going to let go of the rope. He was going to get dragged with it and get slammed into the tree stump and be done.
I'm going to be honest with you. Once he made it through there, I'm like, Ron Perlman's not going to die in this movie. Like, he's going to make it. He's too charismatic of a he's too charismatic of an actor, and his character is like the comic relief in this movie, quote unquote. Like, you can't kill him. Like, it's just not right.
Well, I mean, Alien Resurrection, he made it.
Yeah, he makes it. Is what he should.
As he deserved it, because he was one of the better elements of that movie. Even though he was a prick. I always like to see that when a prick that has utility gets to make it to the end. Rambo did that too, where the British gentleman who was a complete asshole to John Rambo throughout the entire movie, he was the most gigantic asshole imaginable. He still made it to the end because when they needed him, he was useful.
Dennehy,
even though he was an asshole.
Brian Dennehy does not make it. he dies as fuck.
But the reason I bring up the rope burn is because one of Ron Perlman's better moments in the movie, and unfortunately there are only a few of them. Nic Cage is looking at his wounded hands, and he yells, "The flask!" Just, "the flask!" Yeah. And Ron Perlman just like looks at him and says, "Really?" And he pulls out this iron flask of some sort of liquor and like grudgingly hands it over so Nic Cage can pour it on the wounds to address them. But
and then
just his reaction to like, "Really?"
And then a dick move, Nic Cage drinks out of the flask. So not only is he pouring out, then he drinks some of it. Like, you fucking asshole.
It's like, I gave that to you to pour on that priest's hands, not to drink. Jesus.
So now we're getting close to the wolf scene here, but
we get to the forest.
This is where I have to keep looking at the note. Hagamar. There's an altercation here, and I kind of had the volume down. Something was happening. I didn't catch what this was about.
So what happens is he, as you had mentioned earlier, Hagamar doesn't really want to be along for this ride.
I don't blame him.
He agreed to do it because he wanted out of the stocks. Yeah. He wanted to be freed. He's not too keen on hanging out in the Wayward Forest and hanging out with a witch. So he picks up a crossbow, and in the middle of the night, he comes up to the witch's carriage, and he's about to shoot her.
Yep.
He's going to offer, and Nic Cage catches him in the act and is like,
Hey, I don't think that's going to help us accomplish our mission here, Hagamar.
This is not one of our mission parameters.
yeah, his accent does dip in and out, so excuse the inaccuracy of my Nic Cage voice. But Cage confronts him and says, hey, you should cut it out. And Hagamar's like, hey, if I kill her, we can just, say like, oh, the carriage fell off the bridge or whatever, and we didn't make it to the Abbey, and then we can go home. So they're in the middle of an argument. Again, it's a very, very, very blue night.
Very blue.
Night.
Very
On a
blue.
soundstage again. And the witch starts howling.
It's pretty creepy.
She does a good howl.
Yeah.
It's a good howl.
It was pretty creepy.
Yeah, she interrupts them and starts howling. And then we start hearing the rest of the forest just lit up with howls of all sorts of nasty creatures. So it becomes evident that we are surrounded by wolves. Apparently the witch summoned them. Nic Cage picks up a sword and tosses it to someone. I can't remember who. At one point, the mustachioed wonder asks him, what do we do? And Nic Cage just says in typical action hero mode,
Kill as many as you can.
Yeah.
I have it written down.
Good
too.
plan, Cage.
I had it written down. It says, wolves, kill as many as you can. And I have, duh.
That's not a plan, Cage.
That's not a plan.
Yeah. But
Did
then you said you had something to say about the wolves?
I have a feeling you're going to disagree with me, but as far as CGI wolf fights go, they do a good job of keeping them off screen and just getting little snippets here and there to the point where I'm like, you know what? It's not bad. It's really not that. It's not as bad as you would think it would be.
I've seen worse. I will
you.
say that much. I have seen worse CGI wolves. In fact, there's a movie that
The Gray.
The Gray was okay. The wolves are not in it much, but there's a movie SPL 2. I absolutely love 80% of that movie, but the last 20% of it is just like, oh my god, what are we doing? And part of that 20% is one of the ugliest CGI wolves I've seen in the 2010s ever. Like, it would have been excusable if this was like 2001 or something, but no, this was like 2016, and it's like, Chinese production or not, you could do better than that.
I'm just considering this is a Nic Cage Witch Crusades movie. I'm like, the wolves, they're pretty decent for this movie.
Where they really fuck it up is the demon faces.
Yes.
Why did the wolves have to have demon faces?
Well, it's supposed to just say that these wolves aren't here by accident.
Yeah, they were summoned by the witch.
Also, it is foreshadowing for us because we're like, well, we think this is a witch, and like, well, maybe she's not a witch.
Yeah,
maybe she's not a witch.
The wolf. Put a pin in that. But yeah, these wolves do not look great. They're wildly ineffectual, at least for the early stages of this fight. Like, they just kind of run into people's swords.
Yeah.
They're not very good wolves.
They're
not
the stormtroopers of wolves.
Yeah, no joke. I was half expecting them to, like, one of them carrying, like, a stick spear that, like, it fumbles over itself. And, like,
one of them, you hear one of them give out a Wilhelm scream, like, what the fuck?
Ah!
That seems out of place.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
That would have been pretty funny.
Just slice. Ah! But yeah, during the course of this wolf fight, we take out a whole wave of wolves with basically no injuries incurred. Not much to report here. But then there's a second wave, and everybody's like, fuck this, let's pack it up and get out of here. Everybody hops onto their horses. We take off down the road, presumably towards the Abbey. I don't know if you noticed this. I'm very curious, actually. I think the first instance of demon face on one of the wolves, I think they reuse it.
It's very possible.
I think they used the same shot twice.
Well, I don't know when the last time you saw The Mummy Returns. That second.
It's been a while.
We watched the first one, which, like we've said before, excellent movie. The second one, not so good. But if you go back and watch it, pay close attention to when the Israeli actor, the Magi guy, they're fighting out there. These, the dead army that they're fighting, these guys are like supposed to be like 8 feet tall. They're literally, there's just a dude just like swinging it back and forth. Like he's got no hips behind it. He's just literally just like swinging it back and forth a little bit. And there's several of them doing that.
That reminds me of when I think I watched the year 2000 Royal Rumble. My brother ordered the pay-per-view, and we caught these two guys hanging out in the corner, and the one guy's just like choking the other guy, and the other guy's on his knees, and he's just standing over him, just clutching him around the shoulders, and they just stand there immobile for like 3 minutes. And it's like, I hope nobody notices, brother.
While you have Netflix, I think it's very important that you catch up on Joe Rogan stand-up and some Tom Segura stand-up. But Joe Rogan's latest stand-up, he talks about professional wrestling in there, and it's a pretty funny bit.
I'll check it out.
You might like that.
Okay.
But so the wolves, I have Death by Wolves. So we get. I keep wanting to call him Tommy because he's Tommy from Snatch. I keep wanting to call him Tommy, but Hagamar, he basically gets taken by the wolves and he's eaten alive by them. Not a lot of weight to it. Nobody cared.
Like I said, the movie forgot about him for at least 10-15 minutes. So for him to show up and attempt to have some like pathos didn't really pan out.
If you wanted to make this a better movie, have the wolves eat that altar boy, because that would have had some weight to it.
Well, I'll tell you, like, I'll wait till we get to the end of this when we're wrapping up, but there's one major thing that I think would have made this a better movie. But like I said, we'll get to that when we get to that. So we ride off away from the wolves, we escape, we're back in the daytime, and now it's fucking snowing.
Yeah.
Goddamn Croatia. Cage has a breakdown though. He halts the carriage and he picks up the same crossbow that Hagamar had, and he wants to take care of this witch.
Yeah.
He's like, we've lost some good people, quote unquote good people.
Yeah.
And he wants to eliminate the witch. He has a decent quote here. What?
We've lost my human shields. We've lost 2 of my human shields.
All I got left is Ron, and he's like 90% face.
That boy weighs 80 pounds. The arrow's gonna go straight through him and into me. That was my last good human shield.
So yeah, he actually has a pretty decent quote here, where Dabalsack is trying to talk him down, and Nic Cage has the crossbow held up. And he says, no man has spilt more blood in the name of God than I. A benevolent God would not ask such things of men. And he fully cages out in the last half of that line.
Yes.
The only instance, I think, in the whole movie where he raises his voice, unfortunately. But goofy shit happens here where Felsen, Ron Perlman, points out, like, he, like, practically slaps him on the shoulder. He's like, hey, Abby's right there. It's like good. Right in clear view of where they're at.
It's like fucking Mordor.
You guys are like a football field away from where you've been trying to get.
It's like the Eye of Mordor is just looking right at them.
It's like,
he's like
staring
hey,
right down at them.
I see you. Like it's right there. Hey man, it's I did get a chuckle. I'm like, wait a minute.
I think it's visual acuities based on movement. Maybe if we move real slow, it won't notice us.
Oh man, keep absolute.
Yeah, they reached the Abbey.
Keep absolutely still.
It's a cool location. Obviously, it's a real building of some sort, like a historical castle or something, or church maybe. But when we get inside, turns out the plague has reached the Abbey.
When I was watching this, when he comes in, he's like, sorry for the intrusion, and then he has a full-on MacGruber blowing up the whole team. Oh, no.
Yeah, Dvorak does not take well to this. He freaks.
No.
Oh gosh, oh darn. He freaks the fuck out. His faith has been tested.
Yes.
He starts saying a prayer, gets on his knees. Cage is just practically rolling his eyes at this. He's like, what are you doing, man? But then, like, as they're kind of on their way out, actually, there's a monk on the ground who, much like the old lady when we first arrived at Croatia, he's still kind of kicking. He can't talk, but he's still alive. And he like just kind of points up, and Cage is like, "What's that?" And it's like, "Oh, it's the bejeweled Book of Solomon, just right there." So the book that we saw at the very beginning of the movie that apparently has the power to resurrect corpses and stuff is just right there. So now we have a plan. Dvorak's like, oh, this is the Book of Solomon. It can be used to resurrect corpses and do other magical feats. So as it so happens, being as he's a priest, he can use the book potentially to put an end to the plague and quell the witch, do something to the witch. I'm not even entirely sure what the objective is here. I think there's a lot of repetition of the word judgment. In fact, how they got the witch to... how they subdued the witch was Cage assured her that she would be judged as opposed to just executed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what that means. I'm pretty sure no matter what, this lady was going to get killed, but whatever. And this is when we get what's supposed to be a grand, like, Shyamalanian reveal. You want to walk us through the revelation about the quote-unquote witch?
Well, we come to find that the witch, this was her plan all along. She actually wanted to get to this abbey and wanted to get to this book because it's not Snowflake. It's not Snowflake. It's a demon. The demon has possessed this girl, and apparently the Book of Solomon is the only thing keeping the demon from...
demoning the world?
Yes. He wants to destroy the book so that he can just run free. And it's really a sad reveal.
Yeah.
The demon is like up on the ceiling, and this voice is not cool at all. Like you.
Yeah. What happens is the witch is still in the carriage. Dvorak comes out with the Book of Solomon. He starts doing some sort of incantation. It ain't doing shit.
No.
But then he like just randomly flips the page, and it says in what looks like plain English. Not sure how much of that was around back then, but
wasn't.
It says in very plain English, like exorcismo or something like that. Something that very obviously says it's like exorcismo or something like that. And he just decides like, I think I'm gonna change up the beat a little bit. Like, let's put a new spin on this. And instead of doing whatever he was doing, he starts reading from the exorcism page, and then the witch starts freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
So now it's working. And this is where we get the shot from the trailer, I remember, where the cages of the carriage start melting.
Yeah.
She goes full demon mode. She sprouts wings, and I couldn't help but notice the face of this demon looks like the Iron Maiden mascot.
Yes, thank
Eddie
you.
or whatever.
Yes, it looks exactly
looks
like
a lot
Eddie.
like him.
Looks...
And yeah, the voice is flat.
Also
there's nothing there.
Resembles the son of the devil in Constantine. I don't remember. Do you remember?
A little bit, but not
like...
as good looking, obviously. Because some of the special effects in Constantine were very good, actually.
I love that movie. It's stupid fun. I enjoy it.
I don't love it, but it is good. Like, it's not bad. Especially considering it's based on comics that it doesn't resemble at all, really.
No, like if it's on, like if I see Shia LaBeouf, like I'm Chaz Kramer, like in the cab, I'm like, okay, this is early enough. Like I can enjoy the movie from here. So yeah, the demon I guess gets into the abbey, And
yeah, that's how they figure out that they were being led to the Abbey. Is instead of it has wings.
Yeah,
it can go anywhere it wants. Instead, it goes into the Abbey. So they figure out that this is where it wants to be.
Mm-hmm. He reanimates some lepers. These leper monks.
There's a bunch of monks that have been. I think they point out that they're making copies of the Book of Solomon by hand.
Yeah. But the dude doesn't want to get copies, from what I understand. He wants to destroy the book.
Yeah, and before this final battle, Nic Cage knights Mr. Villalobos. It's pretty dumb scene. It's not very good. The one thing that we get from it is that everybody gives an amen after a prayer is said, so it's like meant to reinforce the fact that everybody in the party is now on board. Like, we're all in it together, and we all have some degree of faith.
I do like the conversation that he has with the kid has with Perlman. He's like, it just doesn't feel right. And he's like, what? He's like, I'm knighted, but I don't feel like a knight. And he goes, you will after this.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's why Perlman's here, is to, give the film some personality, because there's not a whole lot of that to go around. By the way, the name of the abbey is Severac, which is a very
that's a weird name for an abbey.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like an abbey. That sounds like, Sauron type shit or something.
Side note: if you ever decide to drink some point in your life, if you wanted to drink beer and you see a monk or any kind of abbey, or you feel like it might be from that time period, Belgian, something like that, those are really good beers. Every time we say abbey, I'm just thinking like, man, a nice Belgian ale sounds really good. Like those are tasty beers.
Well, I mean, they had hundreds of years to figure it out, so
yeah.
I hope it's good.
It's really good. So yeah, I don't really know what the showdown consists of, because I was
it's kind of hard to believe that it is the showdown.
Yeah,
because it feels like a preamble to what should be the showdown, but then it's like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, because you brought up The Mummy Returns. I happen to feel that the first half of that movie is excellent.
Oh, yes.
And then it just keeps going down. Basically, when we get to like pygmies and stuff and airships before that, it gets pretty dumb. And even the war scene at the end, it's like, why is this here?
There's a lot of really dumb threads in that movie.
But that first half in London is pretty fucking fun.
Yeah.
And think of all the scenes that happen throughout that movie, though. All these action beats. They're big, they're loud, they're kind of fun. This one, our finale, is a bunch of resurrected plague monks, who, again, like the wolves, are mostly ineffectual. They don't do any damage to our heroes until like the last stanza in the fight, and then demon guy, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like that is it, and the demon is defeated eventually by reading from a book.
And Ron Perlman dies, which
he's the what? De Balzac gets his head twisted around by the demon.
Good,
so he's out. Perlman gets a false death. He's the only person that's injured by the plague monks. He gets like stabbed in the back, and then he falls down in slow motion. So we're like, he's dead? Really? He comes back later, so he gets better. But
I let out an audible "get fucked." I'm like, he gets stabbed. Like, oh, get fucked, really?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was at. I was like, huh? Like, a big guy like that, I think he can handle a little more than that. I mean,
yeah.
Have you seen a fucking John Woo movie? Got to get shot 10 times before you start to get some quid in you.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, the plague monks kind of reminded me of Blade when they're summoning the blood god.
Oh yeah.
Like the little skeleton demon things.
Yeah.
Anyway, the plague monks, they're killed by being decapitated. And all of our guys have like expert aim at hitting that neck region just perfectly. There's no like combat or like slicing and dicing or like delimbings and stuff, or like any real demonstrations that these monks are difficult to get rid of. It's just every hit hits right on the neck and they're done. But yeah, Perlman gets stabbed in the back. He falls down, and Cage is grappling with the demon, but then he gets bailed out at the last second because Perlman shows up behind it and like pulls it off of him, and he gets cooked. He gets cooked by the demon. It gives him a bear hug, wraps its wings around him, and sets him on fire, and he turns to ash. And it was very disappointing.
Very disappointing.
But yeah, then we get the very end of the battle, where all the plague monks are taken care of. De Balzac is out, so now the boy has to pick up the book, and he starts reading from it. But the demon's still coming at him. So Cage braces himself against the demon, pins it up against the wall, kind of like does not a crucifixion, but he does the stigmata hands to it. He like puts some knives in its hands against the wall, so he's like pinning it up against the wall, and it's using its wings to stab him in the back, and he's doing the martyr's death thing, and all the while the kid is reading from the book, and eventually the demon kind of just dies, and Nic Cage falls down. I'm trying to make this sound interesting, but it really wasn't.
It's really not.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean...
and by the way, after the demon dies, the girl appears on the ground all slimy.
Yeah. Does Nic Cage make it? Because I feel like it's just the
No, he dies.
Yeah, the girl and the boy, they make it. And then...
Yeah. By the way, Nic Cage gets scraped on the eye by one of the plague monks. Scraped, not like stabbed, but just like scraped on the eyelid and on the eyebrow. Put a pin in that. The girl, whose name is apparently Anna, she's okay now, and we have a young guy with her, and they exit the abbey and they hop on some horses, and they make some graves for all the fallen quote unquote heroes. Pretty sure they would have left de Balzac in there because he wasn't particularly nice to anyone. Then we get our closing quotes. My name is Anna. I owe you my life. God keep you. And then as they're leaving the graves, the girl asks Mr. Villalobos to tell her about the heroes, because she doesn't remember any of her time with them because she was possessed at the time, but she knows that they gave their lives for her. And then we get this epilogue narration. Do you want to tell us a little something about what this movie has to say about history and the Black Plague?
I didn't even catch this. I think I turned it off before that.
Well, after Perlman goes, it's kind of like, fuck it. I'm done.
After that, I'm like, I'm done with this. It's over.
So we get a closing narration by the girl as they're riding off into the sunset in Croatia. She basically says, like, the plague is written off by history as just a plague.
Yeah.
But I know better because I was there.
It wasn't leprosy. It was witches. It was a demon spreading.
It wasn't the bubonic plague or rats or anything. It was a witch.
So is this was this historical fiction?
If they hadn't added that, I would say no, but they did. So
I think it's historical fiction.
That's the official genre classification of Season of the Witch: historical fiction.
Historical fiction.
So yeah, I think it goes without saying that this is not a great movie.
No,
I wouldn't even call it good. This is very much like afternoon. This is a snow day on the Sci-Fi Channel movie.
Yeah,
where it's like you're 11 years old, you ain't got shit to do. It's 11 a.m. on a Wednesday. It's like, let's see what's on the Sci-Fi Network. It's like, Season of the Witch. I'm sure that sucks. I'm gonna eat some Pop-Tarts and watch it.
I actually, we might get some hate mail because of this. I enjoyed watching this a little bit more than I enjoyed Raising Arizona. I particularly didn't care for Raising Arizona. Just wasn't my cup of Coen tea.
I mean, that's fair. Everybody has an opinion.
I can tell you right now, Raising Arizona is a way better movie. Even though my personal taste aside, like it's a better movie for sure. But this, I don't regret watching this one. I knew what I was getting myself into. I picked this specifically for I want to see Nic Cage's lull period. Like, what is this about? It looks like it could be stupid fun.
Well, obviously, I'm equally interested because, like I said, Drive Angry is from the same year.
Yeah, I'm
at
really
the
excited
same
about
stage
that.
of his career. So there's a reason I haven't seen either of those movies.
Yeah.
It's because I knew they probably weren't very good. But at the same time, I'm still curious, and I would like to see what they're like. By the way, the thing that I was hinting at about what would have made this movie better, violence, gore.
Yeah.
This movie is almost entirely bloodless.
Yeah,
And it feels tame and it feels half-assed in that regard, where it's like there's something missing from this like dark and gritty Crusader film. Like with the amount of instances of people swinging swords, you would think there'd be some blood.
Well, they don't really fight humans. That's the other thing, is they're not really fighting people in this movie, except for in the very beginning. And those shots they're done a specific way. Like, it's not, it's like you said, it's soundstage. Like, it's the same thing each time. I think you're right. If you were to up the gore factor, because just think about how good the makeup was on Christopher Lee's character.
Yeah. So, in fact, all the plague makeup in this movie, like all
Very
the corpses
good.
we see, very good.
I'll
Like,
give it that.
legitimately good.
I'll definitely give it that.
But yeah, every time someone's hit with a sword or something, like even the wolves, there's like no fluids, no delimbings.
Well, she could have definitely done like a Russell Crowe in 3:10 to Yuma. Like, she could have like gotten a hold of somebody. And you remember in 3:10 to Yuma, he just in the middle of the night shanks the shit out of that guy.
That was gruesome.
Yeah. Like, she could have gotten a hold of somebody, like the altar boy. Like, he was expendable as fuck. Like, you could have just had him get killed.
He's the pure soul that needs to make it to the end, and all the other people have their redemptive arcs, which they fulfill, and then they die.
Somebody could have literally just woken up and saw him standing next to the cage, and then like he turns around and his throat is just.
Well, I mean, like Hagamar could have been more of a scoundrel.
Yes.
Could have been more He could have like stolen their provisions in the night and tried to run home.
Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Yeah, and then he gets torn apart, and it's gruesome, and the audience goes, "Yeah, he had it coming." And then like the plague monks, for instance, when their heads are being lopped off, there's like this really shitty CGI like wisp effect that comes out, not a drop of blood. The reason why I mentioned Nic Cage getting his eye scraped actually plays directly into next week's movie, Drive Angry. Supposedly, a big motivator for why Nic Cage read the script for Drive Angry, a movie that on paper I'm sure looked terrible.
Oh yeah.
And decided he wanted to do it was it was going to be shot in 3D, and the novelty of it was attractive to him. And then B, the part of the script involved his character having his eye gouged out. Something that apparently was in the script for Season of the Witch, but was excised due to the producers saying no. So I'm guessing somebody hit the panic button in the producers' meeting room or whatever, and said, "How do we sell Season of the Witch?" I don't know if this is an R-rated film, but it stinks of a PG-13.
I think it's PG-13.
Yep.
So I'm looking at Drive Angry, a much bigger cast, like a much more well-known cast. Same year, same IMDb rating. They're both 5.4 out of 10.
Whoa.
Yeah, right?
Well, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up, that these two movies share that connection, that Nic Cage didn't get to have his eye gouged out in Season of the Witch, so he decided to make another shitty movie so he could get that eye poked out.
Roger Ebert gave Drive Angry 3D 2 stars.
Was that RogerEbert.com or Roger Ebert?
It's RogerEbert.com, but the review said Roger Ebert.
Oh.
Was he still alive in 2001?
Maybe
he must.
I think he was on his way out, but maybe.
I think he passed away in 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Well, on that note, I don't have anything more to say about Season of the Witch. So I guess thank you for joining us as we caught up on Cage. Join us next week as we catch up on more Cage in 2011's Drive Angry.
Yes.
Until next time.
Peace.